Fame can be a fickle thing. You can be the biggest thing on the planet and then you're suddenly not. Once upon a time it would be because of one bad movie or a poor decision or just a lack of work. These days it's often because of some controversy or something along those lines. Some people in show business manage to make a comeback though, getting a second opportunity, a second chance at stardom and success. Today I'm going to talk about some of those people, the ones who made a comeback and became bigger than ever before, and whether or not that comeback lasted, whether it was short-lived or not. So let's get straight into it with the first one I'm talking about today, Mickey Rourke. So Mickey Rourke was big in the 80s, he was sort of a Hollywood heartthrob in a way, doing romantic movies and dramas. He was a very well regarded actor, also considered very good looking by certain audience people. Then he decided to take a break from acting and try out boxing, and that did not go too well for him. Sure, he had some success as a boxer, but it resulted in him having to get some plastic surgery, it resulted in him having a drop in stardom and attention. So he kind of went into obscurity. It then came about, he continued to do some work in that time I should say, but it wasn't until the early noughties where he started to make a sort of comeback in Hollywood, being cast in Sin City, which was a pretty big deal at the time. He was one of the lead actors in that. He then got the big boost in his comeback with The Wrestler, which he was nominated for an Academy Award for. And of course he went on to star in Iron Man 2. After that though, his comeback kind of waned a bit. He did star in the first Expendables movie, and he had a few things lined up that didn't really pan out, including one about a rugby player, which could have been interesting. But I think Mickey Rourke has struggled to get roles because of, one, his age, he is on the older side now, and two, the way he looks. I don't think he looks terrible by any means, but the plastic surgery that he has had has impacted his appeal to certain audiences. And sadly, Mickey Rourke's comeback was very good at the time, but it just did not last. James Gunn. So James Gunn, a very big name these days in Hollywood for various reasons. He was an independent movie maker, he was a scriptwriter, he was a director, he went on and made Scooby-Doo, he then got really big in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies at Marvel. He's done a bunch of other things and he's well regarded as a filmmaker. But then all of a sudden it came out that many years ago he made some inappropriate jokes online and they came back to haunt him. Marvel was not happy, they fired him. Yes, they fired him after the second Guardians of the Galaxy movie and it looked like his planned trilogy was kaput. After a little while off, after it seemed like he was being punished for these inappropriate jokes, he went out his way to apologize. He made it clear what he was doing and where he was in that time period. Warner Brothers and DC gave him an opportunity though. They brought him on to do The Suicide Squad, which turned out to a pretty big success at the time. He was then rehired by Marvel to finish out his Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, which as of recording is releasing tomorrow. And on top of all that, because of the success of Suicide Squad, he got a new TV show, Peacemaker. He's now also the head of the DCU. Talk about a comeback. He went from being just another filmmaker, another writer and director, to being a head of a huge franchise. That's the comeback of a lifetime. Hugh Grant. So Hugh Grant in the 80s and 90s was a big rising star in rom-coms and romantic dramas, and he was a sort of heartthrob in the UK in many ways. Then he had a legal encounter, which I'm not going to dive too much into, but there was a legal encounter in which he'd done something which some people might look down upon, and he suffered from that. He then went on to do a string of rom-coms, becoming the rom-com guy. He was known for just doing rom-coms. Until in the past, I would say 5 to 10 years, where he started to branch out a bit, doing more action movies, more spy movies, fantasy movies. He's really branching out and showing us that, hey, this guy is more than just the romantic lead in a rom-com. He starred in Cloud Atlas, he's been in The Gentleman, he's now one of Guy Ritchie's favourites it seems. He was in Dungeons and Dragons recently. Hugh Grant is making a hell of a comeback, showing us what he is capable of, regardless of what you think of him as an individual. Brendan Fraser. So Brendan Fraser, a huge name of the 90s. He was starring in comedies, he was starring in big action blockbusters like The Mummy. He was a big name star, a Hollywood heartthrob in certain regards. He was everywhere in the 90s. And then he started to make some movies which weren't hitting quite as big as some of his prior ones. And then there was a bunch of backstage stuff going on. So apparently he got an injury in his back which prevented him from being able to work out and do certain roles in movies. He also had an encounter with a producer where a producer wanted him to do something that he did not want to do. Something outside of movies, let's say. Not going to dwell on the controversy too much. You can look it up if you're really interested. But Hollywood being the bastard that it is, he was punished for turning down this producer's advantages, and his career kind of fizzled away as a result. He was blacklisted in many regards. And then, many years later, he got cast in Doom Patrol, the TV show. Very good show, very good performance from him. He then was cast in Darren Aronofsky's latest film, The Whale, which has won critics over and reminded everyone that, hey, Brendan Fraser can act. It's a hell of a performance, he won an Academy Award for it. Talk about comebacks, he's still in that comeback phase. We would have saw him in Batgirl as the main antagonist, Firefly, but that movie was cancelled, not on his fault. So, Brendan Fraser's comeback, we're in the middle of it right now. It's at its peak. What's he going to do next? That's the big thing that we need to figure out if he wants to keep it up. Ke-Huy Quan. So Ke-Huy Quan, best known for The Goonies and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. He's that cute, funny kid who hangs around with your favourite main characters. But the problem with being a child actor is, once you're not a child, can you keep it up? Can you keep that appeal going? Ke-Huy Quan couldn't quite do that. He phased out of Hollywood, it seems, as he grew older. He struggled to get roles as he grew older. And it wasn't until recently, this past year, with Everything Everywhere All at Once, that he decided to make a comeback in a big action drama comedic role, and he really shows off his skills. He again won an Academy Award. We're right in the middle of his comeback right now. He's got a TV show with Michelle Yeoh coming out in, I think, a month. It might not even be that long, it might just be a couple of weeks by now. But that's something to keep an eye on as well. Ke-Huy Quan, we're in his comeback right now, and I don't think he's going to be going anywhere anytime soon. In a good way. Robert Downey Jr. This was another one who was a big name, not necessarily a show-stealing, not necessarily a box office income star of the 80s and 90s, but he was the son of Robert Downey Sr., so he had a bit of an advantage in that regard. He had a name going into the Hollywood business. He was starring in big dramas like Chaplin. He was showing off his acting skills. He was kind of the Leonardo DiCaprio at the time, I suppose is one comparison you can make. He was a good actor doing good dramas. But he had some personal issues. He had some substance abuse issues he had to go to rehab for. He was a Hollywood bad boy behind the scenes, and it didn't really work out for him. So after the stint in rehab, after getting off the alcohol and the drugs and so on, no one really wanted to take a chance on him because it was a big risk. Would he be able to bring his best, his A game to any movie that he was hired for? And the answer was, we don't know. So after the rehab, the only person that really gave him an opportunity was Jon Favreau, who cast him in Iron Man. Iron Man came around, a huge success for Iron Man, launched the MCU, the biggest franchise we've got going right now, and Robert Downey Jr. was the face of it. A hell of a comeback. He's now one of the most in-demand actors on the planet. This year he's going to be in Christopher Nolan's next movie. He's got TV shows in the work. He's got a bunch of movies in the work. He's a producer now. It wasn't just Jon Favreau though. You've got to give it out to David Fincher, who cast him in Zodiac as well. That was sort of the start of his comeback, with Iron Man being the big one that got him going. Burt Reynolds. So Burt Reynolds was a huge star in the 80s. He was the big blockbuster star of the 80s in so many ways, starring in action movies, in action comedies, The Cannonball Run, not League of Their Own, what's that one called with the football? I'm blanking on it right now, but you know what I'm talking about. The Adam Sandler remake came out many years later. But anyway, Smokey and the Bandit was another one. He was a big star in comedies, in action movies. He was a big hit. And then in the 90s, things started to phase out. And then along came Boogie Nights. He was cast in Boogie Nights, a movie which apparently he hated, and he hated working on. He hated the director. It was not a good time for him. But he got an Academy Award nomination for his role in that movie, and I think that's his actually best performance in a movie. I don't necessarily think it's his best movie, but it's definitely his best performance. It reminded everyone, hey, Burt Reynolds, he can act. He's more than just this cool guy in the lead role. He is a very good, depth-filled actor, and sadly, because of the behind-the-scenes stuff with Boogie Nights, his comeback didn't really last. The reputation he got from his relationship with the director of Boogie Nights almost jeopardized him. I think he fired his manager and agent because of Boogie Nights as well. So he struggled getting roles like that. He struggled getting the big roles after that. So his comeback didn't really work. John Travolta made a big name in Grease and Saturday Night Live, dancing, singing as a good-looking guy with a great body, great moves, and that's kind of what he was known for in the 70s and 80s. It wasn't until the 90s when Quentin Tarantino brought him into Pulp Fiction where we actually got to see him branch out a bit more. He tried to do it a bit here and there, but nothing really that audiences could latch onto. Pulp Fiction resurrected his career, showing he can do more than just the dancing and the singing. He can act, he can be a darker, more serious individual on the screen. And after that movie, he starred in a bunch of action movies. He started to do more dramas, more comedies. He's now kind of just doing a bit of everything all over the place. He's got a bit of a reputation, but not in a good sense. His comeback was at its biggest in the 90s, sadly. And his comeback has waned since then because of a string of just poor choices of straight-to-DVD movies, of TV movies, of questionable performances that he's put on. And yeah, sadly, John Travolta's comeback, not the best one out there. Regina King. So Regina King was a really good actor in a bunch of dramas and stuff, but then all of a sudden she took 7 years off. Yeah, just 7 years without any work. It's unusual. She then came back in If Beale Street Could Talk, and that got everyone's attention on her again, getting her a lot of acclaim, a lot of critical acclaim and attention and awards attention as well. After that, she went on to star in Watchmen, and she's now a director behind the scenes as well. She's in a bunch of things, reminding everyone, hey, this is a talented woman who is good both in front and behind the camera. We are in her comeback right now. It does seem like things are slowed down a little bit again. It remains to be seen on how long that comeback's going to last. Michael Keaton. So Michael Keaton, best known for his work in the 80s as Batman and Beetlejuice. He then went on into the noughties, or the 90s and then the noughties, doing a string of like dramas and comedies, but nothing really being a big hit. As he got older, it seemed things were not really working out for him. He was making a bunch of poor decisions that were continuing his career. He never really stopped working. He just stopped being a big name. And then it wasn't until Birdman came out when he reminded everyone that, hey, this guy's got a lot of talent. This guy can act his socks off. And yeah, he was older now. He did look a bit different. He has less hair, for example. But he showed everyone that this guy has a lot of talent, and now he's one of the most in-demand actors in Hollywood, starring in big blockbuster movies like Spider-Man Homecoming, coming in and doing all of the big action blockbusters, doing all these drama movies, doing all of these comedies, and now on TV as well with Dope Sick. He's a award-worthy actor, getting awards all over the place, pretty much for every film he does now. He starred in that McDonald's movie, which was it was good, and it was a great performance, but it didn't really do much. And yeah, he's continuing to work. He's now doing better movies than what he was in the noughties and 90s. And his career has made a comeback, no doubt about that, and it seems to be sticking with it as well. Winona Ryder. So Winona Ryder was best known for her comedies, her dramas of the 80s and 90s. She was a rising star. She starred in an Alien movie. One of the worst Alien movies and one of the least successful ones, but still a pretty big deal starring in a big franchise like that. Then she had some legal issues. Not going to go into that stuff too much, but the legal issues that she suffered from led to her getting arrested. She then couldn't get insurance. The insurance company simply wouldn't pay for her to be in movies. So she wasn't getting cast in anything. So her career kind of just stopped. She did do the odd thing here and there, but not much, nothing big. And it wasn't until Stranger Things on Netflix came around, which became a huge hit, and her being one of the main characters in it, resurrected her career. Now, it's worth saying Stranger Things is kind of the only thing she's done in recent years. We are yet to see what this comeback will do for her. She has been so dedicated to Stranger Things, it seems. Don't think I've seen her in anything else outside of Stranger Things that's hit quite like that. Although I do think she has just been cast in the Beetlejuice sequel. Again, same boat as Michael Keaton. Will that comeback continue after Stranger Things now that that's coming to an end? Only time will tell. Final one I want to talk about today is Jennifer Coolidge. So Jennifer Coolidge is known as Stifler's mom in the American Pie series. Regardless of what you think of those films, they were big hits, they were very popular, they were very well liked by most people, and they made her a recognizable name and face. The problem is that outside of those movies, she was making a lot of poor choices, a lot of poor decisions on what movies to star in. She became the funny woman in the comedies, the supporting character who just popped up here and there and was often like a little weird and outlandish in certain regards. But none of her films outside of American Pie really stuck the land and not really hit it off with audiences. In recent years though, she was cast in The White Lotus, and she is fantastic in that. The show itself is fantastic. She got numerous awards for it, and it has resurrected her career. You're seeing her pop up in movies and getting cast in other TV shows and movies all over the place now. Again, still sticking with the comedy themes. She seems to be the comedy woman still. Will her career continue to be on this upward progression? Will her comeback continue outside of The White Lotus now that she's done with that show, it seems? Again, this is one of the things where we are kind of in the middle of her comeback right now. Will it continue? I don't know. I hope so, because I really like her, and I think she could really bring any movie that she's in to life. It'll be interesting to see if she does more than just comedies though. That's what will really make her comeback stick out. And those are just some of the Hollywood comebacks that I wanted to talk about today. Let me know about your Hollywood comebacks, your favourite Hollywood comebacks in the comments down below. And of course, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at _GrantBurn, and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. Until next time though, thanks for watching.